Hello, my friends. So nice to have you with us tonight. John Peterson here from the Arlington Institute, and we're here with a postscript interview. I'm with Dolly Safran. Hi, Dolly. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking. And how are you?
It's quite well. It's been a very, very hot day here in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia, where we are, and over 100 degrees today.
Ooh,
But it's supposed to rain a little bit tomorrow, so that's gonna be nice. Dolly, I'm excited about talking with you. It would be a big understatement to say that you're an interesting person. You're going to be with us at Transition Talks here in Berkeley Springs on the 17th of August. That's going to be a very interesting Saturday. We're going to live stream it, of course, all your talk all over. But we also have a wonderful time here in Berkeley Springs, which is just 100 miles from Washington and Baltimore. So it's really easy to get to. So I would like, I mean, I've read about you and so on. And so I'm excited to hear a little bit more about this. But for those of our listeners who are not familiar with you, to give us just a brief background of who you are and what you've done.
I am a generational contactee. My family has been on their agenda for a long time. Uh, as my relatives have gone before me, they have exhibited abilities and talents to be useful here on this planet to help mankind. When I was born fully awake, aware. When I was about 8 weeks old, we left Georgia to go to Miami, and I actually remember the trip. Um, I've had many experiences. Psychic, my development that way started very, very young. And by the time I was 14, I knew what was going on, but it wasn't all in absolute, like 24/7 real time for me. I had moments where I was questioning things, and I decided that either I was nuts and needed
Yeah.
help tragically, or this was real and I was out to prove it at that point, and I was going to do whatever it took. So I waited for the next contact time, and it happened. And it took a little bit of work on my part, and but I did it. I absolutely recalled everything at that point. It took a few days for me to assimilate everything. I had terrible headaches from it. Um, it was a lot to undertake and understand. At that time, they realized that I had managed to pull that off and had total recall now and was simulcasting between my higher consciousness and my physical mind. And they offered me the opportunity to do what I wanted to do. And they asked me to work with them. And what was it that I wanted to do? I chose piloting. That was a great love of mine here on this planet. There are pilots in my family. My father flew gliders, and that just seemed to be what I wanted. And they entertained the idea and said this could be a go, and they started testing me to see if I had the ability and the innate, psychic ability and talents to do this. And once took about a month or two, and they realized that I could do it, and they began training me at that age. I was between 14 and 15 years old when they decided that I could. Um, I took my first solo flight when I was 19 years old, and I've been working with them ever since. My training involved training through my childhood for understanding who they are, living with them, getting to understand the dynamics of their societies, of who they are. I learned a lot of philosophy from them, a lot of morality from them. I learned a lot about the universe, mathematics, physics, that type of thing from them, as well as while I was learning at home. Astronomy has always been a real strong suit for me. I tend to have an eidetic memory, and I have a weird, strange ability to remember number sequences, which was perfect for flying because that is a key component of what I do. I have to know where I'm going, and everything has mathematical frequency that we cite where we're going interdimensionally, and so that worked out as well. While I was still in between doing that and being home on this planet, I became a nurse. I wanted to very badly help people and take care of animals as well. I was a student park ranger in the Everglades. when I was very young, and I've always taken care of animals. And my family had a zoo as well, so I got involved heavily in that. And I finally got married in my 30s, and I had a daughter at 32. And I raised her up, and she also became a contactee.
Mm.
It's just a lifetime of incredible events for me, and learning and understanding what's going on in the world and why.
Well,
I felt,
this is very interesting to me because I've kind of hung around and been interested in the whole uh, extraterrestrial question for a long time. As you probably know, I'm a futurist, and I'm interested in the kind of things that are likely to make big changes in the future that'll shape the new world, the new human and the new world that's emerging here. And so the whole idea of having contact with other terrestrial kind of life is profoundly important in just kind of functional terms, because I say there are very few things that leave humanity alive and that change so fundamentally the basis of who we all are, or potentially do, as having contact with some group that's by definition much, much older and far more sophisticated than we are. And so I have always had a lot of interest in kind of conventional things, but also I call it unconventional things that have to do with other dimensions and so on, and spirituality. And so I've always been interested in this, and had, done a whole lot of things, know a lot of people who have been kind of leaders in the supposed area, in the area. I say all that to say that I've always heard little bits and pieces of people who have had contacts and been here overnight and for a day or two or some other kind of thing. But the thing that interested me, one of the things that interested me a great deal and encouraged me to get in touch with you, was the fact that you've got this whole kind of lifetime of relationships that started when you were kind of 14 and now you're 60 something, I believe. And
60s.
and you've got all of this kind of amazing kind of history that starts at the beginning, as you alluded to, of education, where almost every night they'd take you up and teach you about physics and things. And it's not like sitting in a schoolroom, but they'd take you to different places within the solar system and the galaxy and so on. And it was just really kind of fascinating. And then, just by the way, I'm a pilot. I used to fly airplanes for the Navy off of aircraft carriers. And so I'm reading about the process that you went through to become vetted and trained to become a pilot. And I kept saying to myself, God, that's like this flight school, flight training for the Navy, down at Pensacola, do the psychological stuff and the hand and eye, and yeah, all of those kind of things. And then finally, when they decide that you get the aptitude, then then they're on to you for a year and a half or 2 years or something like that, just trying to
Yeah.
teach you how to do this thing. And so there is a kind of a coherence about your story and what you've done that I've really not ever seen before. And so I find that really quite interesting.
Thank you. Not many people say that to me at all. Yes, it is. It is been an extraordinary uh, upbringing for me with them, and yes, it is. It is very real, and
Well, let me
determined.
ask you. Let me ask you about that, because obviously I'm intrigued enough that I've invited you to come and be with us, and I'm talking to you now. But on the other hand, there are a lot of folks, I know some of them, that would kind of look and say, what? How do you know? What do you mean? She's just telling stories. How would you know that? How do you answer people like that?
Well, I can answer it a couple of ways. One of them is that humanity has held knowledge away from the masses. Only certain people are vetted to hold certain types of knowledge, and it's very encapsulated. That's the way things are run on this planet. You, as a pilot, know that you can't just go and teach anybody how to do what you did. You have to be able to
Yeah.
certify them, and the government doesn't like that. You have knowledge that you cannot talk to about any with anyone. You are full of NDAs. That's an example of the encapsulating of knowledge and what goes on for real. The governments of the world have done that. All of them have. They almost cooperate with one another in doing what they do. It is important to understand that in your trying to understand everything about existence here and the history of it and the knowledge of it, you have to amass a lifetime's worth of knowledge just to cognitively put it in a way that you understand it, wholly understand it. And people are not afforded that opportunity. And this is disparaging to me, because this is why I get the reactions that I do. This sounds like poppycock to me. And you're all running on belief and not foundational knowledge or
Right.
knowing. And then somebody like me comes along and says, excuse me, there is a foundational knowledge, there is a foundational knowing. And I have to explain myself out constantly about this. I've spoken to physicists, I've spoken to engineers. Bob Lazar knows who I am. I totally support his work, by the way. Um, I, I do what I can to afford giving an understanding that what I say is valid. I can also speak from my own experience, and the experience has weight, especially when you go back and you back check me what I say, and you realize that I'm not telling you a fib or fabricating things, because I'm giving you direct, provable knowledge. And that is,
How is it provable? I mean, I have no doubt that you believe it, of course, but
well,
how
when I
is it
talk about
provable?
electromagnetic energy and what's going on with the planet and the universe and the star systems,
Ah,
these are all provable pieces
oh,
of knowledge. I have an
yeah.
understanding of energy and how it works. I have an understanding of the craft. I have videography of the craft. I have photos of the actual craft. When you look at most people's pictures of UFOs, they're all up in the sky, the little dots. You know, the cameras that they have now can't focus on them really. I can actually show you a craft, a real one.
You're gonna do that when you come here,
Yes, I
aren't you?
am. I'm
Oh,
bringing.
good.
Yes, yes. I also have physical proofs. Preston Dennett, who wrote Symmetry about me, vetted me for 6 years. I gave him wide open access to my entire family, all of my friends, doctors, physical reports, x rays, all of that, that stack up and show you a pathway to understanding that this is no joke, this is the real thing. The
Oh,
other thing that
that by the way is a wonderful book, because I that's how I heard about you, because I read that book. It's really quite
I was hoping,
compelling.
yeah, that was one of my first things out the gate when I decided to stay back and give a message from ET. I told them that I wanted to come forward, that nobody else was, and the misinformation was so bad. And
Yeah.
just it felt like it was personal to me. I really, really don't like to know that humanity is in the shape that it's in right now, and it concerns me greatly. And I feel like maybe this is my path. You know, this is what I was meant to do. I've thought about it most of my life, and then I realized time is getting weird now, shorter, and it was time for me to open my mouth. They put me through a briefing uh, for almost a year, preparing me for what I was going to run into, because I had no conception of any of this, the ufology here, the way the government operates. I knew through my dad a lot of the governmental part of it, but not the, you know, the everyday guy and the
Right.
ufology groups and the cons and all that. And I had never read any of that material or paid any attention to it. I was too busy elsewhere, and they commanded me not to. They didn't want me to
Yeah.
get involved with it. And then I decided to be involved. It's taken me a while to get my feet wet with it and be on firm ground and understand what's being said, and what y'all understand is possible real things when they're not, and understanding that the government has real back engineered craft, and you're all confused about that as well. And it's time to start pointing this out to you and why. You know,
Yeah, well, I'm familiar with some of that reverse engineering and some of that kind of
you
stuff.
would
So
be. That's
I
right.
know that I know
Yeah.
that's real. You have it's interesting to read Cemetery, this book, because uh, for me at least, when I read it, there was this kind of internal consistency that continued throughout the whole story. Again, built this sense of credibility about the whole thing that I don't find with a whole lot of the folks who claim to have all kinds of relationships and doing all kinds of other kind of things. I also appreciate, by the way, that kind of energy and your approach to all of this, because it's not the kind of show business approach that seems to kind of operate in a whole lot of these kind of spaces. And
Notoriety is not my aim, not at all.
well,
Professionalism is
but
important. Yeah,
what is your aim? And we're not going to be explicit about it here, but you've got a special message
yes,
that
I do.
is particularly for humanity right now. And let me tell you, this is a big, powerful kind of concept. And we're going to talk about that on the 17th of April when you're here. And so tell me, why is this happening now? I say, why? Have you got a sense for, why they're talking to you and why now, and why are they encourage you to come out here and talk to guys like me?
It's not so much about me personally. I just happen to be the person who was born at the right time in the right place and developed the abilities that they needed to teach with. Like I said, my family's been followed for a long time. I have incredible genetic lines, and it was hoped by them that somebody around the time, and there's more than just me. A lot of those who are like me have left with them, and they're not here. I stayed back. I have very low fear. I don't fear anything. There's no need to be in fear or paranoid. Or what we do need is to be back in. If you're college educated, you understand that there's thesis and antithesis,
Right.
and that there's a pendulum between the two. And I've watched my whole life this pendulum swinging and preparing to go into antithesis. And we're there now. And it is apparent, it is important now to bring the messages. What happens on this planet happens on a regular time schedule, and you
Yeah,
there
no,
is
we've talked
inevitability
about
going
this.
on there. Right,
Greg Braden and I have talked about this. Every 12,000 years, there's this
right.
kind of regular kind
Right.
of,
We also have a 6,000-year cycle,
yeah,
and the two are conjunct right now together, and that's making it a little bit more dire for everybody.
yeah.
Society, or not society, the shadow governments have known this for well 80 years now. There are a lot of people in the governments that have known this. My father was one of them, and as a contactee, oh boy, did he really know. He started teaching me these things when I was very young. And we went round and round and round with what we were going to do with it until I started piloting. And then he realized that he would not be here when it happened, and that I would be, and that it was solely up to me to make up my mind. I'm either going to be here or with them. And I chose here. And I chose that pretty much right after he passed away. And
Mm,
I know that it is serious. And,
yeah.
you know,
So who are these folks these otherworldly folks that you deal with? Where are they from? Tell us about them.
um, I deal mostly with the tall gray. They're well known. They were spotted on the moon by some of our astronauts, and the little AI gray that helped them in space. They are uh, artificial intelligence that are biological. They're created to take all the gamma radiation in space that they can't load up with, and will only go out into space for short periods of time because they're just as vulnerable to it as we are. I also deal with two other ethnicities of the grays. Then there are those that okay, the tall grays come from the Orion clusters.
Uh,
And there is a particular star system, like in Orion's belt, you see the three stars, and then
mm-hmm.
there's one down below it. That's the system that they're from. And they have a name for it. It means people, the people, and it's called Endelma. And I find it amusing that the people in this world who are native, okay, have a name for themselves, and it means the people, literally. And and it sounds like Ndiama, but it's a shorter version of it. It's their slang for it. And first time I heard one use that term, I was like, wow, you are star children, you know, you have to be. You would never have come up with that on your own, you know. Um, that's where the tall grays are from. There's two other ethnicities of grays that literally come from the Zeta Reticuli systems,
Hmm.
but they're all related to one another. They've just moved around over the eons. Then there are those who most resemble humanity, and you refer to them as Nordic or tall white. And they are not allowing me. They're very private. They're very staunch in their. They're almost very stoic people. They're very long lived, and any information about them, I'm not allowed to like present too much. They have a very, very strict society. They're very intelligent. They're mathematical, and they do most of the I guess you would call recon of the planet and watching what's happening to it geologically, especially in our solar system. They pay attention to that. That is their thing that they work on. That's their purpose. And then there are others. There are those that are you would know as Anunnaki, and they are the oldest relatives of ours. We do carry their bloodlines. Red hair and six fingers and toes and giantism comes from them. That's the angels that they talk about who fell to earth. They didn't fall; they landed.
And where are they from?
They are also from the Orion cluster, just another part of it further over.
Are all of those groups just from Orion?
No, just them. The tall grays, the Anunnaki. There's I can't tell you where the tall ones are from, but it's near there.
Oh,
And
okay.
exactly, we have the ability now to, because we have a telescope outside our atmosphere in
Hmm.
space, um, it can now sight these things, and they're very particular about what they're going to allow us to see and not see. They're ancient, they're older than we are, much older. People talk about them being thousands of years in advance of us. I would like to correct you and explain to you that there are billions of years in advance of us,
Wow. Yeah.
that they are our relatives. We are their children. We are their
Yeah.
seeds. And they are progenitors to us. And every human on this planet has some of their DNA, each different ethnicity, and or multiples of those
Yeah.
ethnicities. So,
I've really enjoyed reading Barbara Marciniak's books about the Pleiadians, and we don't need to talk about kind of the differences or anything, but the wisdom of those books and from that source is clearly from somewhere else, because the coherence and the depth and the novel kind of things that are presented in those books are just kind of mind bending and wonderful in that regard. And there's elements, clear elements of that in what you're talking about too. So what is it about this time that makes it kind of important? Why are they coming and talking now? What is it right now?
well, the number one thing on their minds for us is that we need to learn to hear the truth. It's
Mm,
not enough to just mentally from your physical mind believe something is true, because it doesn't give you the absolute knowledge of it. And we have abilities innate. Our pineal glands are uh, glands, you know, they're part of our endocrine system. They perceive light and dark. They run our circadian rhythms, but they also transmit and they receive signals from the
right.
brain and from outside the brain. And we know for a fact, it's scientifically proven that there are chemicals that we're ingesting that shut them down. They clog them
Mm,
up, they calcify them.
yeah.
Fluoride's the number one.
Yeah. Right.
And we've polluted our environment. We're plastic heavy. You know, you have small microparticles of plastic in your blood now, and it's causing problems. It can give you a stroke. Uh, People, when they put out plastic cutting boards, I freaked out. I was told never to use them by the ET ever. No, don't allow them in your house. And I warned my mom and dad, they cannot be here. We can only use wood or stainless steel. And we went to that and we never used it. And there's a good reason why. You absorb it into your blood. It does cross the brain barrier. It clogs up your arteries and it'll go to any plaque in your body and make it 10 times worse.
Wow.
That's a problem. This is why we need to stop using plastic. We need to go back to natural things. We need to stop letting big pharma run our lives. because they're not healing us. They're making us addicts to their drugs. And if we
Right.
stop them, we go right back to the original problem and not being healed. That's not good medicine. That's a drug lord. We need to stop that. We need to take control of ourselves and not allow the governments or anybody else to tell
Yeah.
us what's right for us. Our autonomy is important, and the only way we're going to use it is if we use our innate abilities so that we can make heads and tails out of everything. You can't lie to a psychic because they can hear you lie.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
no doubt in their minds. And also, the universe is very chatty. Their example of what God is they refer to as all mind. The entire universe is thinking, it's all mind. And you can communicate with it psychically. It'll answer you, it'll tell you anything you need to know, and it does not lie to you. And a lot of my training was I was taught how to tap that resource and verify everything I've ever learned. I've also learned to, because I'm here, learn to verify the truth about things in a different way, sort of like a researcher. And you do that with scientific method. You know, we have an empirical record here, so we have a lot of that truth if you can get to it and that thing. But it's important to know the truth because knowing something, employing that knowledge, and then using it, you become wise. And that's the one thing that your consciousness is able to employ as well. That's why we're here in the third dimension. It's you can be in source and know everything, but you're an educated idiot without experience. And
Yeah.
when the universe is set up, we come here to experience, become wise, and employ wisdom. That's how you ascend. And we're not doing that. We're not letting. I mean, our whole society worldwide has been taught to fear, be paranoid, be violent. I mean, it's
Yeah.
untenable. It,
Well,
you know,
this is really timely and important what you're coming to and what you're talking about and what you're going to come and talk about here on the 17th of August. Uh, if you're not going through a little bit of an existential angst right now, then you're not paying attention to what's
right,
going on because there's this
right,
coherent and very sophisticated attempt to kind of mess with the most fundamental aspects of reality and who you are and change and question the essence of who you are. And what you're bringing is a message and all an antidote, if you will, almost to these but the problems and the issues of our times. Here at the Arlington Institute, we have a number of programs. One's called Quartet that I do with Greg Braden and Penny Kelly and Kingsley Dennis, and then Greg Braden and I have a program, a little show that we do called What's Up. And so we talking through kind of deeply about what the structural, fundamental kind of aspects of what is going on in the world and where are we going and what's this about and how do you get from here to there and what have you got to do to get yourself prepared and so on.
correct.
And what you're talking about, let me just try for our viewers, just make the point here, is what you're talking about is a perspective and an answer, a set of answers almost, if you will, about the who we are and why we're here right now and where this is going and what we've got to do. I mean, this is a really kind of a comprehensive kind of bag of kind of solutions.
It's a tough
And
amount of information, right? And I kind of want to suggest a little bit of homework before I get there. It's easy to do. I resource everything, and I have met. Well, I didn't meet him physically, but he knows who I am. I know who he is. His name is Ben Davidson. He is a physicist. He is a
yeah, I know
self-taught
him.
physicist. And I would like you all to look up Suspicious Observers on YouTube
Yeah,
and go to his playlist and just run it. Go from beginning to end of it. You will get an education in what's really going on around us outside of this society because like I said, the governments of the world know this is occurring and they have agendas for it. And it will help you to understand that when I come to talk to you, that when I present this to you, I'm bringing that information as well as what ET's solutions to this are
right.
and,
And
um,
so
and
that
advice. Yeah.
And that's the other part of this. It's not just to kind of give us some answers to kind of big questions about why we're here and what's this going and why now and all of that kind of stuff. But this is really practical kind of stuff about going forward. If you're not familiar with this kind of stuff and you're not already in the space we're talking about, but you're on the fence and you're open-minded and every kind of stuff, what this presentation and what this talk is going to do is going to change your life,
Yes.
because you are going to see a coherent, intelligent kind of perspective that clearly comes from somewhere else. And so it's, I don't know where else you think it might come from, but anyway, this makes sense. And then all of us get a chance, of course, to make our own decisions.
Exactly, exactly. You take what you hear and then you prove it to yourself one way or the other, and you assimilate it into your thinking and how you're going to respond to it. That's how life is. That's how we all operate. I'll give you a hint. We are innately psychic, whether you're a wide open psychic and operating on a high level now, it doesn't matter. You're still intuitive. And humans do broadcast thought to one another worldwide and in your general areas, wherever you're going and thinking. And everybody in humanity or worldwide they know, innately know already. You can talk to anyone, something's coming. We are at the culmination of a huge event or series of events. And with that in mind, you have to ask yourself, okay, how do I figure out what this all means for me and how I'm going to work my way through it and what it really is all about. And what we're trying to do is give you proofs, show you places you can resource for yourself. And then I would like to add in a little bit of spirituality into this
Yeah.
because ET is highly spiritual beings. They are like us. They come from the same place as us from source. They're just like us. When they pass away, they go back to source. We're all related that way. They're us, we're them, and we are all one. And we're supposed to be working together. And it's going to happen where, I mean, even sources like the Bible know that something's coming. It talks about these things. On a regular basis, they happen. 12,000, 6,000 year cycles, they happen. And humans don't have proof from every cycle, but they have archaeology and they have types of ways of understanding from the geology of the earth, like understanding what the Younger Dryas is and all
Yeah.
of that, and understanding how the sun works and how the universe works. It's better to be knowledgeable and know what you're facing than to be afraid and
Oh,
hiding.
and get surprised. Yeah, no
Right,
kidding.
right. And their intent literally is to wake us up and
Yeah,
show us the truth and
right.
have us deal with it at that point. And what we decide after that is completely up to us,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
This is so central to the kind of the evolutionary push for the
Exactly.
species. I mean, this is
Heading
really
for it.
important kind of stuff. And so we're very much looking forward to having you with us. And I'm pleased that you're going to
Thank
come. So it'll be on the 17th of August here in Berkeley Springs or by live stream. And you can find out about it at arlingtoninstitute.org or transitiontalks.org. And Dolly will come and we'll probably bring some books, huh? And
Yes, pictures, videos, graphs,
right.
PowerPoint, that kind of thing. Yes.
And then
Preston Dennett, who wrote the book, is helping me on
yeah,
this trip. This is actually my very first time speaking publicly. I've been on podcasts, I've talked at conventions and things like that, but I have never been a singular presenter yet.
wow,
And,
we'll be
and I've
very
only been out
kind.
for 2 years. So, yeah,
We'll be kind and nice to you. You'll have a good time.
appreciate that.
And we'll have a chance to have dinner with a whole bunch of people, 30, 40
Absolutely.
people
Yes.
afterwards. And so
Yes.
it just turns into be a wonderful time here in Berkeley Springs. So we hope that lots of folks and lots of friends will be able to make it here, because this is going to be special. And it's so nice to talk to you. And thanks for being with us here on Postscript. We appreciate it. And we'll see you soon.
Okay.